I wanted to start today by looking at a survey that I have just put together this morning that is trying to gather prioritization of the cataloger user stories. And so I started off doing like a ranking of each one from, not very important at all, or I don't even care, to, extremely important. And I got some feedback from some local folks saying that, that perhaps sorting them would be a better way to go. And I had some concerns because we have like 25 user stories. So I thought just trying to rank 25 things from 1 to 25 would be kind of challenging. So I switched it to be these boxes where you can pick 5 things that are extremely important and 5 things that are very important, all the way down to not at all important. And that way it sort of, it allows people to not have to think about every single one quite so intensely, that you differentiate between the top one and the second to the top one. But it also forces them to make distinctions by making a max of only 5 in each box. So I wanted to get some feedback from you to see if you guys think that is an effective way to get information back.
Lynette, could you share a link to this? It would be.
Is it not showing up in the screen?
I see it on the screen, but it would be nice to just be able to like take a look at it, because I think it's
sure.
easier to think
I can do
that.
I just finished creating it, so this is just the preview. I haven't actually published it anywhere, but I could do that and let you guys go ahead and take it. And
yeah, you should be able to
feedback on how easy it was to do this process.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. You should be able to share the preview, I think. At least when I've created Qualtrics forms, I've been able to share the preview before publishing it, which is actually really useful, because then you get to see multiple views of it.
Right. Do you share it by just copying the link, or is there a special place to share it?
Oh, I don't remember off the top of my head. Maybe try sharing the link and see if that works. And if not, I'll try to remember.
I don't really want to share it with a large group. So does everyone want to see it? If you want to see it, go ahead and ping me in Slack and say, yes, I would like to sort of take a look at the preview, and I will send you all a group message, because there's like 30 or 35 people on the channel. So not all of them are clearly not all in this particular group. So we've had a few people join that are just interested.
Can you share in chat here for the few of us who are on the call?
Yeah, let me do that. I will say the one thing that I did, I tried it out, and the thing that I found is that because there are so many items, it doesn't leave the boxes next to the items. So once you start filling up the items, you can end up not being able to get back to it, because if I try to drag this one up, it doesn't scroll with it.
Yeah.
So that was pretty annoying, and that's the only thing I didn't like about it. I do like the ability to be able to put them in boxes, and I think on a phone it might be even harder.
Yeah, I mean, it might be better. This might be a case where the preview is harder to work with than the actual thing, because I think it's sort of squishing things horizontally because of the phone preview. So that maybe isn't as bad, but yeah, I guess I would not advise people to take this on a phone. Fortunately, I don't think that there's many catalogers who expect to take surveys on their phones necessarily. But yeah, anyway, the preview link works. Thanks.
Good.
Oh, also, I think I had some feedback. I think I had shown the cataloger use cases to a couple of colleagues. It was a little while ago. Sorry, time doesn't make sense anymore. And I think they had some feedback that I haven't incorporated to the wiki page yet. Do you want any feedback, or do you want to, would you rather? Okay, so yeah.
I do. I don't know that I would, perhaps not edited directly, but I did at the end of the survey ask, did we miss any use cases? And also, do you have any other feedback you want to give? So
Okay, cool.
I do definitely want to get just generalized feedback as well.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I hadn't even noticed that. Yeah, so I'll look at their feedback again, but I think maybe I'll just direct them to put it in these boxes. That's great.
Okay. I am worried about this, the UI not being very good for these with that many choices. And I don't know if I can do anything about that, but I might poke around a little bit more and see if there's an option to make it go wider. If it would go a little wider, I think that would help.
Yeah, I just turned, there's a mobile view off button and it doesn't change the width of this column. So
Right. Yeah, because I did that as well. I turned it off and I didn't see anything change.
Yeah.
There may be something I can do with a style sheet or something though. I'll look and see if I have an option.
Okay.
There may be like an option that says use a wide survey or something. Anyway, the basic feedback I wanted to get though from you guys was whether or not this format looks like it'll work, if you think that's an effective way to set the priorities. Because what I don't want to do is get everything marked extremely important, because that doesn't help us to sort of distinguish between how to prioritize.
Yeah. Lynette, do you know when you try to submit, if you have more than 5 in a bucket, if it'll let you? Is there valid?
It'll give you an error. The one thing I thought it would stop you from putting 5 in, but it doesn't stop you. You could put all of them in one bucket, but then when you press next, it would complain that you put them all in one bucket.
At first I thought that was a bad design feature, but it allows you to put something where you think it belongs and then you can shuffle them later. So as long as the form won't let you submit, I think it's nice to have, say, 6 things in very important, and then come back later and say, you know what, now I have a problem. I have to sort these a little better.
Right.
So are the only options here extremely important to, like, is scale the only thing here, or is there do you think that there could be a bucket for, I don't know what this means? Because I do think that, I mean, depending on who you're planning to send it to, like, you might have catalogers who would give you valuable input, but won't necessarily recognize their needs in the language, or at least they might need some explanation. Like, who was I'm sorry, I got here late. Who was the target audience for this?
This is primarily catalogers. So the intention is we're going to send it to the PCC group to get their feedback. And then if there are other people who have catalogers that they want to get their feedback from, we would send it to them as well. It can go out broadly.
Okay. Yeah.
The primary audience is the PCC group, but it can go out more broadly than that.
Yeah, I do. I mean, Stephen, you can tell me if I'm just being too paranoid here or something, but I do wonder if there needs to be a box that says, like, I don't fully understand this or something like that, because I do think that some of this is a little abstract. And I mean, I think the language we came up with is good, but and like there isn't room in here for examples necessarily, because I mean, it's already dense enough. But I do wonder if, like, I guess I worry that some people are going to say not important, or is it possible to just omit them? Like when you're doing this, do you have to sort everything into a box?
You do not.
You don't? Okay.
And then maybe the prompt can be, if there's a feature or a use case that you're not familiar with or doesn't make sense, feel free to leave it unsorted.
Yeah, I think.
What would that do to the data? I get no. Yeah, I don't know how the instrument codes that.
I'm not sure either. So it might be better to put a group in there.
Yeah, I mostly just worry that if somebody might put things into not important if they feel like they need to, like, complete the survey, but
the only problem is that the not sure would also be limited to 5, because I can't set a limit per box.
Okay.
So if somebody has 20 that they're not sure what they mean, they should be able to put all 20 of them in a box. So perhaps leaving them on the side is.
Yeah. No, that, I mean, just leaving out might make sense. When were you planning to send this out?
I'm hoping to send it out next week at the latest. I'm actually in a conference this whole week, so my time is fairly limited. It was pretty easy to throw this together this morning while I was listening to some other talks. But I don't want to rush it out. I'd rather get feedback from you guys first, and maybe get some feedback from some local folks, and with the intention of sending it to a broader group sometime next week.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So if you're not in a hurry, I mean, I'm happy to think about like ways to, you know, whether there's other options in Qualtrics that might help with this.
Yeah, if someone has more Qualtrics experience and has a suggestion for how to do the same basic process without in a different way, that I would be very open to hearing that.
Yeah, I mean, my Qualtrics experience is pretty scattershot. I would also mention that if you haven't talked to Michelle Fatornik about this, she's kind of like a god of Qualtrics.
Okay.
So it's I mean, like Qualtrics is one of those applications that I think is like, it has so many options that like nobody knows all of them. But if, you know, I assume that Michelle is available to you as, you know, part of LD4P3, and she might be, if you get stuck on this, she might be a good person to talk to.
Okay. All right, sounds like it's basically pretty good, but we might do some tweaking. So I'll publish it probably in the next day or two, and go ahead and send it out to like a small group of people just to see how it goes for them, and get some feedback from about the survey itself. All right. So the other part we wanted to do was try and finish up the developer user stories today. And it's actually been a month since we met, since we missed, I had to take off during the last meeting. I have to kind of get my brain back in this. So we stopped off with, as a UI developer, I want to provide additional information in the selection widget about entities to improve the accuracy of selection. So that's definitely a nod at extended context. Does anyone have any other comments about that, or is that good? So I'm not hearing anything. I will take that as it's good. The next one is, as a backend developer, I want to receive additional information about an entity in the same predictable format for all authorities. And that is basically how the backend developer gets the extended context. And the UI one was about how it gets displayed. Any thoughts on that?
Seems reasonable.
All right. As a backend developer, I want to pass filtering requests to provide to provider API. To the provider's API. And receive search results with the filter applied. So this, I think, was for being able to provide an advanced search functionality. So the kinds of things they want to do is a date range, a class type, language, arbitrary field. Does that look good?
It looks good. I think it's predicated, however, on the provider API being able to service such a request, which may not always be the case.
That's absolutely true. And I would sort of point out that at this point, we're saying what we want, not necessarily
Right.
what we can have or what is available. And hopefully we'll go through a similar sort of, well, I think this kind of thing its ranking might be driven off of the catalogers, because there's almost always a corresponding cataloger use case. So if catalogers go, yeah, I really need advanced search and being able to filter like this, and they put it in the top bucket, then that's going to put more emphasis on, wanting all levels of this to be able to provide that. And if they come back and say, yeah, search, advanced search would be nice, but it's not that important, then it would also be lower for the developers end. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right, and this one also has an equivalent backend developer one. This, I guess, so this one is the request. They want to pass it through. And this one is, I want to receive enough data from the provider to be able to apply a filter in the application layer. So I'm trying in my mind to see, Justin, do you have any thoughts on this? Because I'm not like initially connecting with what exactly this means. Perhaps this is like what fields are available so that I could set up an advanced search with those fields available.
Can you, I'm sorry, highlight the one you're working on now?
Sure.
Okay.
So the one above that was to say that if we do filtering, I want to be able to pass that filtering information on to the provider's API. And this one's saying that you want to receive enough data from the provider to be able to apply a filter in the application layer. And it's unclear to me exactly what this one's trying to get at.
Yeah, well, okay, I don't know what it was intended to get at, but I can tell you what I think is needed, which
Okay.
is basically if we are looking to filter things on facets, then we need facet values.
As in which facets are available?
Well, no, presumably which facets are available is in the documentation. Which facet values are available is something that we would need returned dynamically. So if you gave me a result and I wanted to filter it on class type languages, I would need to know in the results, what are the languages that I can filter by.
You mean what are the values that are present in the results that you've gotten, or do you mean what, or something broader than that?
Yeah, well, I mean, of the result set overall, what are the values that are available to be filtered? Because I'm only receiving one page of results. So I need to know for the result set overall, what are the values that are present?
Right. So you don't need to know what values are possible for like the entire resource, but you need to know what are the values for the entire result set.
Yes, that's
What
correct.
are the distinct values? Yeah.
Yes. Preferably with counts, but you know.
Oh yeah, that would be great.
That's much better. This is much easier to tell what it means.
At risk of complicating things, that line of discussion has me wondering if there's a use case for browsing by faceted values without a search.
I think that's a possibility, but I think that would be a separate item. I don't think it would be this item. So let me finish capturing this one and then we can add that.
I feel like that would be a separate item, and that we would also want to consider whether that's a cataloger use case.
Or it might be under the filtering requests. That's essentially what the facet would then be doing, is like filtering by class type or under arbitrary field.
Okay, so now it is, as a backend developer, I want to receive facet values that can be filtered by, e.g. language is the facet, values are English, German, Spanish, etc., and counts for each value. The facet information should include values for the entire result set and not just the current page's result. Does that capture it?
Yeah, it sounds good.
I like that much better. So the other one, is much more is kind of complex. As a backend developer, I want to receive what facets are so does that capture it? As a backend developer, I want to receive what facets are available to support browse by facet.
Yeah, I guess, but my concern now is that I don't know how different that is from two above. So filtering requests.
This one?
Yeah.
So maybe we need to reword this one a little bit. So this one I see as you have created a page that does advanced search and you've listed out what they can search on and you've gathered the information and now you want to be able to send it to the API. So maybe what actually needs to happen is this one maybe could go above this.
One still includes searching and the other one's
Browse
more.
by facet and advanced search. Because you would need the facets to produce an advanced search form as well. And as Justin pointed out, that may be something you get through documentation, not programmatically, but it is information that you want to be able to get. All right. Okay, the next one is, as a backend developer, I want to receive pagination information with search results such that I can request the next page of results.
So I suspect we want to know more than that. We want to know the complete count of results as well. So at least in Sinopia, we don't just say like next page, previous page. We give people a navigation that says like pages 1 through 150 or whatever. It's actually total number of results.
I'm going to refer to this as result set. No, that'd be the whole thing. I'll leave it as page. Does that make enough sense? So as a backend developer, I want to receive pagination information. For example, page number, current page count of results, total number of results.
Are the pages coming from the API or is that determined by the number of results by the application or per page by the application?
Say that again.
It seems to me that the pages are constructed by the application, so using the relevancy or like the ranking number and the total results, that the API wouldn't necessarily construct pages itself, right?
Right. So I thought about that. I was sort of changing this up as you were speaking. So I switched this to be, I think we should get rid of page number because that's actually more of a concept from the application itself and not the API, which is what I think you were saying.
Exactly.
And
yep.
so what it's going to do is say first result position. last result position, and current retrieved results count, and total number of results. I'm going to move this. How does that look to people? So I want to receive pagination information with search results, e.g. the first result position, the last result position, current retrieved results count, total number of results.
Works for me.
All right. So then the next one is, as a backend developer, I want to receive pagination information following a standard. And I give the example of the JSON API pagination standard. Personally, I think we should be using standards as much as possible. And then, you know, which standard we recommend, we can sort of work on that. I found this particular standard to be actually fairly complete. I thought it includes enough information that we could provide everything that was requested in the previous line.
Yeah, that's our go-to for designing APIs.
All right. The next one is, as a backend developer, I want to be able to fulfill all search requests. That is, source authorities respond to all requests with excellent uptime. Anyone disagree with that? All right. Not. Oh, go ahead.
I guess I would just thinking about how Sinopia works. I think I've seen where it sort of fails gracefully, where if it's getting results back from one lookup but not another, it'll still, or maybe that's on the application side.
Yeah, that's definitely on the application side. I would think that would be perhaps a cataloger user story, in that if I'm trying to get something and it's not available, it should fail in a reasonable amount of time and gracefully.
Yeah.
I don't know if we have that up there.
Yeah, looking back at some of the lookup feedback in the Sinopia testing, there was a sense that people wanted to know if they should stop waiting.
That one is in there. There was definitely a use case about knowing that it failed, because I remember seeing that. So I might take this one. I'm going to leave that line there, and I might combine it with the other one, just because.
Yeah, smart.
Yeah, I don't want to extend them because we already have 25. So if there's one that already exists for that, I'll combine it. But this way I won't lose it. All right. Okay, excellent time. So as a backend developer, I want to quickly show results, search results to users, ideally sub-second, and specific threshold TDA. We certainly set that as our target for our cache, that everything be sub-second, and we're getting closer to fulfilling that would be the goal. Any other thoughts on that? Anyone want to propose a specific threshold that they think it should meet? as the ideal threshold?
Sub-seconds seems reasonable.
Okay. And the last one for developers that we have is, as a backend developer, I want to update cache labels and URIs as changes are made to the authoritative source data. So I threw in some examples there to make that a little more specific, that we want to receive change management feed of changed resources, e.g. things that have been added, removed, probably renamed, moved, or split. I'll change that to deleted just because that's a little clearer. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, I guess I don't see why, as a backend developer, I care.
So here's why I would think you would care. Of course, the cache layer cares, right? Because Dave wants to keep the cache up to date. But as a developer, do you save any of the labels in your application?
I do, but I cannot imagine a scenario in which I would consume a change management feed. Like, the labels are just that. They're throwaway labels. If, is it a possibility that the only thing I can ever imagine is when I load up a resource, I go and check all the labels for the latest, but I cannot imagine a scenario in which I would ever do that at the level of consuming a change management feed.
All right. So you may not do that in Sinopia. I know that I've had that as a use case in some apps that I have created. So
Okay.
I will leave that on there. And I think it might come out that when developers rank this particular section, that perhaps that might end up ranked pretty low.
Is there a cataloger use case around this one? We certainly hear about it in our Mark environment.
What did you say about the Mark environment? I missed it.
Oh, sorry. We certainly care about this in our Mark environment where we're not relying on identifiers, and the label does hold prominence. So in a Mark editing environment, this use case might be a little bit more, or the idea of taking a feed and replacing labels might be more important, unfortunately.
Is this strictly about the preferred label, or is this about all labels that have been added to an entity? Because I mean, I definitely see where this is especially important for catalogers for, say, LCNAF, where if the preferred label has changed and that's the thing that they're most interested in. And that's the way that they think about these things. But I'm wondering if current label sort of assumes that there is one primary label
Yeah, I mean, I do think we have developers who manage indexes for our catalog who want to know when authority records have changed so that they can, not just the label, but other information that they use to build knowledge cards, etc. Because we maintain a local cache so that we can create those indexes. But I don't know, this is where I'm starting to wonder if QA is going to, or if QA is an appropriate place, or if this is expectations we should be setting on QA and other APIs that do this sort of thing.
Yeah, I wonder if you could reframe it as, as a cataloger, I want the information displayed in the UI, the editor UI, to match the current information in the resource that I'm querying. And it might, and the thing is that might not be something that is always achievable.
So I might want to add a second part to this, but just to see if I captured this correctly. As a cataloger, I want information displayed in the editor UI to match the information in the authoritative source. So, I mean, this really applies, well, I would think it would apply in several scenarios. I think when you're creating something new, it's going to match because you just got the information. But when you come back and edit later, it may no longer match. And the other, if someone's looking at it, a display of the information, it also may not match if changes have occurred.
Yeah, and it also might be that someone, finds an item that matches, let's say that they're looking for a Wikidata item. They find something that is the right thing, and then they go into it and change it in some way. That's not going to match immediately in the UI that they're working in. I mean, it would be ideal if it was reflected there, but it won't necessarily be. So I guess, sorry if I'm like complicating this. I think the sort of like the currency of the information in the displayed in the UI, I think is a use case that needs to be prioritized. But it may also be that there's some way of queuing, like how old is this cache, like some way of making users aware of the fact that there are going to be discrepancies. I don't know, maybe that's just me. Stephen, I'm sorry if I just hijacked your entire...
No, I'm thinking about, I mean, we've certainly been asked that question. How old is the data? Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about this from the perspective that data over time has a tendency to get stale and become more and more inaccurate if the source data it's based on changes over time. So there could, because we have linked data with a URI that points to something in particular, and if we have a change feed from the provider that tells us when things do something really interesting like split and merge, which is not just a label change, then we can act on that programmatically and keep our data as clean as possible over time. The sort of counter side to that I've heard people say is that they don't want data to change automatically because that data reflects what it was at the point that the record was created. And so from a historical perspective, they don't want to see it change automatically. Now, those are two different camps that are kind of irreconcilable if you want to apply a global strategy. So I don't really know the answer to that, but I think it would be interesting to see how people respond to this kind of user story.
Yeah, that's why I was saying, like, I think this is worth putting in there as just like something for catalogers to prioritize or react to, because it may be that our ability to project user stories onto them might be limited here.
Okay. So that actually brings us to the end of the developer user stories. Are there any others that folks have thought about that need to be added in? All right, I'm not hearing anything. And I will tell you that are we truly only five folks on today? So we're on the lighter side, and the only one representing a provider is Kevin. So I'm sort of inclined to punt off the providers till next week. It's a shorter list, so maybe it will go quick. But I perhaps should go back and look at the developer ones and see what kind of requests were being made. And it's possible this needs to be filled out a little more to correspond to the kinds of things that are being requested on the developer side. So I am inclined to go ahead and cut it a little short today because I don't want to go into the next section. So unless there are other comments or questions that anyone wants to make, I think we will stop here today.
Sounds good.
Fine by me.
All right. Well, enjoy having your 15 minutes back.
Thanks, Lynette.
Thanks,
you, Lynette.
everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lynette. Bye.